Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is your month in review for November of 2024. We're going to go ahead and dive into a bunch of categories over here. Our stats for the month, but not really. Our favorite videos, best games, disappointments, highlights in general, crowdfunding, all of that and more. Links and timestamps to everything down below. We're going to start off with our stats for this month, which I said not really to because my stats are not nearly up to date over here. So November was a tough month for me. I still played a lot of games. At the very least, I played a minimum of 48 games, which is very, very low for me. In reality, though, I think I played closer to around 80 or so, but I don't know exactly because effectively I traveled twice in November, and also I'm gearing up to travel for PAX Unplugged, which basically means I'm traveling like 3 times in like 5 weeks, which feels like too much. It might feel like too much. I mean, it is too much, but that's just what happened over there. That's just the schedule I've happened to have. But that also means I've had a hard time logging all my plays. Right now, my plays are, I have 48 logged plays in BG Stats. I have like 30 plus plays written down with notes in my email that I haven't properly moved over. And that's, of course, in addition to the usual ones that I just forget to add at any given point. But basically, I have a lot of plays in November. Less than I usually do, but I don't know the full amount, so we're going to kind of skip my stats for this month. I should be able to update them mostly at some point. We'll see with what degree of accuracy and whatever. It is just listen, it's just a stats. It's just stats. I like having them for my numbers in general. Or even to be able to look over what I did and didn't play that month, even like 5 years. Like when I use my Where Are They Now series, it's useful to be able to have my Where Are They Now, like what happened 5 years ago. So I do plan on updating it at some point, but for right now, my stats are, I played 48 games at least, and I don't know how many more than that, at least not yet. Anyways, moving on to the my favorite videos of the month over here. As usual, this is the section of my favorite videos from other creators, as usual, these are all ranked in order from least to most. But we have 5 games I have finally played from Joey Evans from the Dice Tower. This is basically just picking 5 random games he happens to have finally gotten to and giving his ratings on those games. As he says in the video, generally as a content creator, you're always focusing on the cult of the now, because that's where the most eyeballs are. If I have a choice between covering a game that came out this month or a game that came out 2 years ago that I haven't played yet, I'm usually going to choose the one that came out this month because that will get more views and attention. I mean, this past month, I've given 3 5 out of 5s. I've given, which we'll talk about soon on the games, but I gave Avalon, Evershade, and Clans of Caledonia 5 out of 5. All 3 of them are fantastic games. I will swear by them. I love them. They're great. They're amazing. And Lands of Evershade and Avalon both have like 10,000 plus views. I think Lands of Evershade has like 23,000 views. Avalon has like 17,000 views, and Clans of Caledonia has like 3,500 views. There's always less interest on older titles. That's just the way that things work. And so I always appreciate when any creator dives into an older title. And I should know that 3,500 views is with it being an active crowdfunding campaign for the expansion. Again, older stuff doesn't get the same level of interest. That's why content creators are part of the problem, because you're part of the problem, and therefore we're part of the problem. Most people want to see content on the newer games. Therefore, most content creators give you content on the newer games. That perpetuates a cycle of people seeing new games that weren't on the radar and feeling they're constantly being sold the new thing, which to a certain extent is true. We have talked about this in many videos. I'm not going to derail this entire video. It is a genuine problem. I don't have a great solution, other than the fact that if you feel you're good on games, stop watching content creators who are going to show you new things that you're going to want. And that includes me too. Like, stop watching the stuff that either way, we'll do this more again in another video. This will be a constantly recurring topic on any channel. Anyways, moving on from there, we have number 4 is going to be One Stop Co-op Shop's content creator matchup. Basically, Mike did a video kind of covering which content creators most align with him based on going over their top 10 games of all time. I thought it was a fascinating idea for a video. Obviously, it's an incomplete snapshot because you're kind of ignoring everything else. You're just looking at this one specific aspect. But if you don't want to do a ton of work, that makes the most sense to do. I thought it was a fun little video. I kind of want to do it myself, but even doing just that amount feels like it still would be a lot of work. But maybe I could use the Board Games of the Year site and do it. That'd be interesting. Maybe I'll do it. Anyways, that is basically from Mike's One Stop Co Shop. I thought it was a great video idea. We have coming from Board Game Buzz, 5 wicked board game recommendations for Elphaba. If you haven't been caught up in the wicked craze and all that, you probably should. It's a great movie and a great soundtrack and great performance all around. But past that, if you wanted to know 5 board games as recommendations for Elphaba, yes, she did one for Galinda as well. You can check out both of those videos over on Board Game Buzz. I thought it was a clever idea, a good way to integrate something new and popular. popular with something that is, board game centric. Coming at number 2, we have the top 10 board games that people are actually playing right now, coming to you from Board Games 4-1. I like the concept of this video a lot. I didn't like the execution, which was a bit of a mixed, well, I'll explain, not the execution, the method used. But basically, he's talking again, cult of the new, board game hotness, board games are, people rank board games based on whatever, but ignoring what board games are ranked as, what are the games that people are actually playing the most right now? To that end, he did a video of the top 10 board games people are playing right now, which I love the idea, and I did enjoy the video. I didn't like the method used, because the method used was by going to his local game store and basically getting their stats on the most sold games, which is a very small isolated snapshot, and also it's sold games not based on what people are actually playing. I would love to do this again with a different data set to actually capture what people are actually playing. I think it's a good concept to see what are people actually playing, not just what is being purchased, not just what is the hotness, what are the games that are actually getting table time every single month. The tricky part there is there's always going to be a bit of a bias towards games that have an online presence because it's easier to log plays. So I don't know how you factor that in, because you could go through Board Game Geek's data set and do it that way as far as logged plays each month, but a lot of those will be games that are available on Board Game Arena or in general on online implementations, such as Everdell, Dune Imperium, all of those. But again, I love the idea for the video, which is why it's here. And then my number 1 video of the month for another creator, this is coming to you from Board Game Hackers, which is my guilty pleasure in the board game hobby. I think Board Game Hackers is an incredibly entertaining channel with incredibly high production value and over-the-top spin to their videos, which I don't know to this day whether they mean it or whether it's part of the presentation and act. Either way, it's immensely entertaining, but he did a video of Board Game Hackers hacks terraforming Mars. I will always recommend their videos when they come out, not always, but usually recommend their videos when they come out, because I think they are so incredibly well done that it's not even about whether I agree with them or not. I'm there for the entertainment and production value alone. Moving on, we have my best new games of the month. Again, from 5 down to 1, we have Kingdom Legacy coming to you from Firaxis Games. I really enjoy this. I'm still in the middle of it. I really enjoy this small solo legacy game that takes Palm Island and turns it into a full legacy experience. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I look forward to finishing it whenever I have a chance. We have the Morrison Game Factory, another great game this past month, coming to you from Post Curious Games. Another one of the puzzle games that I finally got to. It came out maybe a year ago-ish, somewhere in that range, but I thought it was an excellent job, really tugged at the heartstrings, which sounds like a weird thing to say about an escape room game, but play it and you'll see what I mean. Morrison Game Factory, absolutely incredible. Then there's Avalon, the Riven Vale from Shadowborn Games, which I thought was a great take on area control. I think it's the kind of game that'll definitely join my top games of my top area control games, along with Blood Rage, with DEI, with Inish, and all of that. I think Avalon, the Riven Vale is fantastic. Then there's Clans of Caledonia. I'm coming at number 4 for Clans of Caledonia, coming to you from, oh my gosh, what's the name? Karma Games, but I finally had a chance to play this classic. It's been in the top 100 for a long time. I finally got to table it, and since tabling it, have tabled it again and again and again consistently. I'm currently in the middle of 2 games on BGA. I just finished a game 2 days ago. I think it's a great game. It plays in a fairly reasonable time frame for the amount of decision space, and I'm just having a ton of fun messing with the different clans and trying to optimize around those. I so far do have my favorite clan, the one that gets to go next to the rivers as you spread into the lock at a discount, which if you play the game makes sense. I haven't tried all the clans yet though, but that's currently my favorite. I got 2 plays of it with that one, and I do wonder if it's overpowered, because that one seems to win. But anyways, that is basically Clans of Caledonia. And then my favorite game of the month is going to be Lands of Evershade from Awakened Realms. I think they did a tremendous job with it. Very much reminds me of Iridia the Past Video Tread, which just showed up and I'm excited to dive into. But Lands of Evershade was an excellent RPG experience that I had a ton of fun with, and I'm excited to dive back into that narrative experience and see how the game plays when it finally shows up and all of that. That's my best new games of the month. For my disappointments of the month, we have a few over here. As usual, general notes on this one is disappointments does not mean bad games. Disappointments means the games that I walked into it with a certain set of expectations, and those expectations weren't met. Very often disappointments are games that I think were good, but I'll tell you as I go through them. I just want to always put that disclaimer there, because I don't want you to think that it means it's bad. It just didn't live up to what I was hoping for. Coming in number 3, we have Catharsis over there. Catharsis was one that it's hard to call a disappointment, because on the one hand, I started off with Catharsis of not being pulled in aesthetically by the game, but being pulled in by the gameplay. That was my starting baseline. But then I got it and was excited to try to get past that. I was excited to be like, okay, I'm going to play it, and I'll get past the fact that I'm not pulled in aesthetically. But ultimately, it was the same problem. I think the production, the presentation, the sheer amount of text, the giant cards, a lot of things get in the way of my enjoyment of the experience. The gameplay itself is very good, but I was disappointed despite kind of having those expectations expectations initially, but then I thought I'd get past them, and I didn't. So that was catharsis. Coming number 2, we have Mistborn, the deck building game. I think it's a totally fine deck building game, but that to me is all it is. Nothing Mistborn did to me felt like it was above and beyond. And so for me, especially coming from John D. Clear, who I usually like his games a lot, I thought Mistborn was a good game that didn't do anything particularly compelling for me. Integrated well with the theme of Mistborn, but that's not why I'm playing a game. I want the game to be good, and I thought it was just good and not great. And then coming at number 1, my biggest disappointment was easily The Waste of Parts. The Waste of Parts from Sky Kingdom Games. I generally like Sky Kingdom's games, and I like Sky Kingdom's games. I like the Esfahn a lot. When The Waste of Parts was described to me, I was very much looking forward to it. And again, it's not a bad game. It just was one that didn't impress. Once I dove into it, I was like, this feels like a fairly standard dungeon crawler in the approach. You're leveling up your characters, you're wandering from room to room, but the room upgrades didn't feel as interesting as I would like. The gear you get didn't feel as interesting as I would like, and so I was left with just a good dungeon crawler. That was fun, but I would choose many other dungeon crawlers over it. Moving on, we have my favorite videos on my channel. My favorites on my channel, coming in 5 down to 1. We have a Stalker unboxing. I'm very excited for Stalker. I unboxed it. In general, I find the videos that I put in my favorite videos are often the ones that I was the most enthusiastic about filming them. And I liked the Stalker unboxing. I was enthusiastic about Stalker. I was into it. And so that's my number 5 over here. Coming number 4, we have my Avalon the Riven Vale review. Again, reviews don't frequently make their way into my favorite videos, but when I'm particularly passionate about them, they can. And in the case of Avalon the Riven Vale, I was very excited about that. I'm very passionate about it. I definitely enjoyed that video, and I recommend checking it out. We have Time to Purge More campaign games. This is technically 2 videos if you want to check out parts 1 and 2. I like both of them. I'm only going to include it as one part over here, but it's another campaign game purge, which I think will be a yearly series on the channel until I'm down to a manageable amount of campaign games. Every year some come in, every year some leave. I do keep it somewhat reasonable, but somewhat is definitely a relative term. Based on, depending on who you are, I'm either very, very, very strict, or I have no sense of restriction whatsoever. Depends on which side of the spectrum you're on. Coming in number 4, we have my best games of 2024, my best 10 games of 2024. I definitely got some flack for this one. Reasonably deserved, because I basically filmed this at the, the tail end of November, when, as some people put it, you shouldn't have the best games until theoretically the next year, but at the very least until December. To that end, next year I think I'm going to try to hold off and do it in December, not November, because as much as I don't want to be the last person there, I also don't need to continuously move up how early those video series are. So that's on me. I shouldn't have done that. I should have at least waited until December. But the best games of 2024, I still enjoyed it because I like talking about my favorite games, and this was definitely some of my favorite games of this past year. And then lastly, the Lands of Evershade review. The Lands of Evershade review was another review that I was very excited about, very happy with that game. And that's always a delicate one to manage, because at the end of the day, I work for GameFound. GameFound does have partial ownership in Awakened Realms, and to that end, there's always that conflict of interest, which again, conflict of interest will be present in many different ways, but that's definitely one of the more public-facing conflict of interest that can be more touchy. And so I try to handle it as fairly as I possibly can. For the most part, people who know me, who know the channel, received it well. There are definitely some people who don't like that. But as I pointed out, somebody pointed out, this doesn't count for anything. You work for Awakened Realms. And first of all, I don't work for Awakened Realms. I work for GameFound, partial ownership. But my response to that, as usual, is, okay, but the last 4 games I covered from them didn't get a 5 out of 5. So, did they forget to pay me that month? How does that work? In general, I've gotten this flack in general a bit. Whenever you love a game, the people who watch you consistently will hopefully know that you love this game and you don't love many, many other games. But if you get watched by somebody who's just watching that one video, it's easy for them to project degrees of bias onto the content when the bias might be there. But the logical application of, I remember this happened with Brink, where Brink I gave a 5 out of 5 to, and people were like, oh, they got paid for that. And I'm like, okay, did they forget to cash my checks for Veiled Fate, for Fractured Sky, for what was the one before that, whatever one was before that? I mean, I've given a 5 out of 5 to Mythic Mischief and Brink. None of the rest of their games have gotten a 5 out of 5 for me. They've all been in games that I enjoyed, but that's it. So unless the checks are very selective, I don't think people are getting paid for those selective videos. Anyways, those are my favorite videos on my channel, which brings us to the crowdfunding highlights. Crowdfunding highlights is always tricky for me, because sometimes it's because I actually enjoyed the campaign itself, other times it's just because I want the game. But nonetheless, we're trying to figure out where that is. We have my 5 crowdfunding campaigns for this month are going to be SAS Rogue Regiment, the expansion for that. It's a game that I haven't even played, but I think I'll like it a lot, and so I'm pulled in by that one. We have Clans of Caledonia and Industria, the expansion to Clans of Caledonia, which I'll definitely be picking up. We have Avalon the Riven Vale, which should be no surprise. I've talked about it already. We have Vestige from Orange Nebula. which you may have noticed was not in my best new games of the month because it has too much shared DNA with Vindication for it to be one that I would call my best new games of the month, but it will be showing up in my best experiences of the month down below, which we'll get to in a second. But Vestige in general is definitely interested in that, definitely want that one. And then lastly is going to be Lands of Evershade. I think that is definitely the biggest presentation as far as a campaign goes, which is typical. Awakened Realms, CMON, they are companies that do very well with their giant campaign experiences for the consumer. Which moves to my last category, my highlights in general. To that end, we have them, again, going in rough order. We have TAC, which I haven't played in a while, but I dove into TAC, and I still really enjoy TAC. Knocked out several games in a row, which I tend to do when I play it. I think it's a fantastic experience. There's a reason it's still here. We have Star Realms, which Star Realms is an older game, but my son dove into Star Realms Jr. and has been having Star Realms Academy. He's having a lot of fun with that. And then after he's gotten like 7th game of Star Realms Academy, I was like, do you want to play this game? And I showed him Star Realms, which I have the big box foil edition, and he was like, what's that? Is that Star Realms? And then he now loves Star Realms, and he's already done with Star Realms Academy. He's immediately upgraded, and we already played it competitively, cooperatively. I'm going to be teaching him how to play it solo, so we'll see how things go, but Star Realms definitely up there. We have Ethnos. The re-implementation from Ethnos is from CMON. I think it's a great re-implementation, a great reprint. It does a much better job with the art, and so Ethnos is one that I've been having a lot of fun with this month, and I'm happy to add it back to the rotation. The original Ethnos I always liked, but I had a hard time with the presentation and the production. That is something that does affect my likelihood to table a game. Coming at number 2 over here, we have Vestige. Vestige, I had a chance to go down to Orange Nebula and play Vestige. I played it both with the Nemesis, without the Nemesis. I think it is definitely shared DNA to Vindication, but nonetheless, I think Vestige is a great game that shares DNA with Vindication, that the target audience for it is effectively people who don't have Vindication and want a cheaper access point, people who love Vindication, or people who want the Nemesis character, the solo bot you can play either against yourself solo, competitively, or cooperatively. Anyone who doesn't fall into those umbrellas doesn't need Vestige because it is different, but too much similarities that you definitely don't need both. But there are categories of people who will still benefit from either both or Vestige alone if you haven't even gotten Vindication. And then lastly, my favorite experience of the month is going to be Disney Lorcana. My daughter has fallen hard down the rabbit hole, and as much as Disney Lorcana is, as much as I don't want to get sucked too much into TCGs, my daughter's having so much fun with it that we are now deck building and buying cards and doing all the things that we shouldn't be doing if we were responsible adults. But the good news is I'm starting off cheap. I'm starting off cheap, buying commons and uncommons online, and then from there we'll figure out what else I need to go ahead and do to keep her appeased. But I am getting sucked into that Disney Lorcana rabbit hole with my daughter, and it's fun. It's a good bonding time, so it's totally worth it. And that is your month in review. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you have an excellent whatever day of the week it is, I guess. And as always, I hope you have a good one.